Hey there, welcome back. Today, we are about to embark on a journey back in time to one of the most tragic natural disasters in modern history, the 2004 tsunami. On December 26, 2004, the Indian Ocean was struck by a series of powerful underwater earthquakes off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. These earthquakes triggered a massive tsunami that unleashed its fury upon coastal communities across multiple countries. Within hours, the tsunami waves reached the shores of several countries, including Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and the Maldives, among others. The destruction was unprecedented, and it forever changed the lives of millions. As we revisit the events of that day, it's important to do so with sensitivity and empathy for those who lived through the horror. The 2004 tsunami was a result of a powerful subduction zone earthquake. A subduction zone is a geological area where one tectonic plate is forced beneath another. In this case, the Indian plate was subducting beneath the Burma plate, and the sudden release of stress along the fault line resulted in the massive earthquake. The earthquake's epicenter was located off the west coast of northern Sumatra, near the Indonesian province of Aceh. The magnitude of the earthquake was approximately 9.1 to 9.3, making it one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. The initial earthquake lasted for nearly 10 minutes, causing the seafloor to rise suddenly and displace an enormous volume of water. This displacement generated a series of tsunami waves that radiated outward from the epicenter. The speed of these tsunami waves was incredible, traveling across the Indian Ocean at speeds of up to 500 to 800 kilometers per hour, 310 to 500 miles per hour. As the waves approached shallower coastal waters, their speed decreased, but their height increased dramatically. The first wave struck the northern tip of Sumatra, Indonesia, with devastating force, flooding coastal areas and inundating communities. The tsunami waves continued to spread, reaching the coasts of other countries in the Indian Ocean, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. It's estimated that the 2004 tsunami affected over 14 countries, with the highest death toll reported in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and the Maldives. In total, it's believed that over 230,000 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. The aftermath of the 2004 tsunami was a scene of devastation beyond imagination. Entire communities were reduced to rubble, with buildings and infrastructure destroyed by the powerful waves. The loss of life was immense, leaving families torn apart and communities shattered. In the weeks and months that followed, the affected countries and the international community rallied to provide aid, support, and relief to the survivors. Humanitarian organizations, governments, and individuals from all corners of the world came together to help those in need. Relief efforts focused on providing food, clean water, medical assistance, and shelter to the survivors. Temporary refugee camps were set up to accommodate those displaced by the disaster. The 2004 tsunami was a wake-up call for the world, highlighting the need for better disaster preparedness and early warning systems. The catastrophic loss of life and widespread devastation underscored the importance of being ready to respond to such natural disasters. The 2004 tsunami was a stark reminder of nature's immense power and unpredictability. The initial underwater earthquakes resulted from the movement of tectonic plates, causing a displacement of the ocean floor. This sudden shift sent shockwaves through the water, triggering massive waves that travelled at incredible speeds across the ocean. By the time the waves reached coastal communities, they had transformed into monstrous walls of water, crashing upon everything in their path. The speed and force of the tsunami waves were beyond comprehension. In some areas, the waves surged as far as 5 to 10 kilometers inland, obliterating everything in their path. Coastal regions were inundated, and populated areas were turned into vast expanses of destruction. The tsunami waves wreaked havoc on structures, sweeping away buildings and leaving behind a landscape of debris and destruction. Boats and ships were tossed around like toys, adding to the chaos and loss of life. The waves were so powerful that they reached as far as the east coast of Africa, thousands of kilometers away from the epicenter. The entire planet vibrated from the force of the earthquake, and it caused permanent changes to the Earth's rotation. Coastal communities were not the only ones affected by the tsunami. Even remote islands and low-lying atolls in the middle of the Indian Ocean experienced the force of the waves. In the immediate aftermath of the tsunami, communication and transportation infrastructure were severely damaged, making it challenging to coordinate relief efforts. The scale of the disaster overwhelmed local authorities and governments, necessitating international assistance. As the waves hit, they unleashed unimaginable destruction. Entire villages were swallowed by the sea, leaving behind a trail of debris and devastation. Coastal infrastructure, homes, businesses and livelihoods were obliterated within minutes, leaving survivors grappling with the aftermath of such immense loss. The power of the tsunami waves was such that they not only destroyed structures, but also eroded the coastline itself. The landscape was forever altered, with some areas experiencing significant land loss, while others saw the deposition of new sediments. Coastal ecosystems, such as mangroves and coral reefs, suffered extensive damage. Mangroves, which serve as natural buffers against waves, were uprooted and destroyed by the force of the tsunami. Coral reefs, which provide vital habitat for marine life, were crushed by the waves, leading to the loss of biodiversity and affecting the livelihoods of local fishing communities. The impact on marine life was devastating. Fish and marine creatures were swept inland by the waves, leaving them stranded in areas where they couldn't survive. Additionally, the turbulence caused by the tsunami disrupted marine ecosystems and led to the loss of habitat and food sources for marine animals. The tsunami also triggered secondary disasters, such as landslides and liquefaction. The force of the waves destabilized slopes and triggered landslides in some areas, adding to the destruction and loss of life. Liquefaction occurred when the intense shaking from the earthquake turned water-saturated soil into a liquid-like state. This phenomenon further amplified the damage to structures and infrastructure in some regions. The sheer scale of destruction left rescue and relief efforts in disarray. Emergency services struggled to reach all affected areas, and survivors had to endure the loss of loved ones, homes, and livelihoods. The human toll of the 2004 tsunami was heart-wrenching. Thousands of lives were lost, and countless families were torn apart. In the face of such a catastrophe, stories of heroism and resilience emerged. Ordinary people became extraordinary as they helped each other survive and cope with the overwhelming grief. Aid organizations and volunteers from around the world came together to provide relief and support to those in need. Among the most vulnerable were children, who faced unimaginable trauma and loss. Many children were orphaned, and others were separated from their families during the chaos of the disaster. The elderly and people with disabilities were also disproportionately affected, as they faced challenges evacuating and finding assistance. The loss of life and destruction caused by the 2004 tsunami were felt across borders and cultures. The global community grieved together as news of the disaster spread, and people from around the world reached out to support those affected. In the aftermath of the tsunami, there was a remarkable outpouring of compassion and solidarity. Donations and aid came from individuals, governments, and organizations worldwide. People of different nationalities, races, and religions united to offer their support. It was a powerful demonstration of humanity's capacity for empathy and collective action in the face of adversity. The immediate aftermath of the tsunami was marked by chaos and confusion. Local authorities and emergency services were overwhelmed, and the scale of the disaster required a coordinated international response. Governments, humanitarian organizations, and individuals from all corners of the globe mobilized to provide aid and support to the affected regions. Emergency medical teams, search and rescue units, and supplies were dispatched to the disaster-stricken areas. Helicopters, boats, and aircraft were used to access remote and isolated communities that were cut off by the destruction. Food, water, medical supplies, and temporary shelter were provided to survivors in need. One of the biggest challenges in the immediate aftermath was identifying and caring for the countless missing and displaced people. With communication networks damaged or destroyed, reuniting families and friends was an enormous undertaking. Humanitarian organizations set up registration centers to help people find their missing loved ones. For many, the wait was agonizing as they searched for any information about their family members. As rescue efforts continued, the focus shifted to providing longer-term support and assistance to the affected communities. The process of rebuilding lives and communities was just beginning. The The reconstruction process was a massive undertaking that required cooperation and coordination among international organizations, national governments, and local communities. Temporary refugee camps were established to provide shelter for those displaced by the disaster. These camps became home to thousands of survivors who lost their homes and possessions. The rebuilding efforts also involved restoring essential services, such as healthcare facilities, schools, and transportation infrastructure. However, the challenges were immense. The scale of destruction and displacement overwhelmed local resources and capacities. The recovery process was hindered by logistical challenges, bureaucratic hurdles, and the emotional toll on survivors. In the months and years that followed the disaster, the international community remained committed to supporting the affected countries. Governments and organizations provided financial aid and technical expertise to assist in the reconstruction efforts. The recovery process extended beyond just physical infrastructure. Emotional and psychological support were equally crucial to help survivors cope with trauma and grief. Mental health services and counseling programs were set up to provide psychological support to survivors, especially children and families who lost loved ones. Communities came together to support each other and rebuild their lives. The resilience and strength displayed by the survivors were a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure even the most unimaginable tragedies. The recovery process also provided an opportunity to build back better, with a focus on sustainable and resilient development. Lessons learned from the disaster highlighted the importance of integrating disaster risk reduction measures into rebuilding efforts. The 2004 tsunami was a wake-up call for the world, highlighting the need for better disaster preparedness and early warning systems. The catastrophic loss of life and widespread devastation underscored the importance of being ready to respond to such natural disasters. The Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System, IOTWMS, was established to enhance the region's capacity to detect and respond to tsunamis. The IOTWMS is a network of seismic monitoring stations, deep ocean buoys, and tide gauges that work together to detect and transmit data about potential tsunamis to national warning centers. These warning centers are responsible for disseminating tsunami alerts and advisories to the affected countries and communities, allowing them to take appropriate measures to protect lives and property. In addition to early warning systems, disaster risk reduction measures have been integrated into development planning in tsunami-prone areas. This includes constructing buildings and infrastructure to withstand the impact of tsunamis and raising awareness among communities about evacuation routes and safety procedures. The lessons learned from the 2004 tsunami have had a far-reaching impact on disaster preparedness and response worldwide. The disaster brought to light the need for international cooperation and collaboration in addressing global challenges. The international community recognized the importance of collective action in the face of natural disasters and other global threats, leading to increased collaboration in areas such as humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and climate change adaptation. The 2004 tsunami also highlighted the critical role of media and technology in disseminating information during disasters. Social media platforms and mobile technology have since played an essential role in facilitating communication and coordination during emergencies. To this day, the memory of the victims remains deeply etched in the hearts of those who survived and the global community at large. Memorials and tributes serve as a reminder of the profound impact the tsunami had on the affected countries and the world. As we remember the events of December 26, 2004, let us honor the memory of the victims by committing ourselves to creating a safer and more compassionate world. By learning from the lessons of the past, we can work together to build a future where disasters are met with resilience, hope, and humanity. Thank you for joining me. If you found this video meaningful, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel,